right, ladies and gents, here we are on the Bicoastal Baseball Podcast on the Grid Network. I'm Mike Guido. That's Dalton Brown. It's great to have you here on this Monday evening. Trade deadline. This is, the season of the hot stove at the moment. So we have plenty of stuff to go over today, plenty of trades to talk about, some grades to give out. We have a lot to accomplish today, so it's going to be quite the busy show. Dalton, how are we feeling? Right before the trade deadline on Thursday, how are we feeling right now?
Really excited, anxious. This is obviously a great time of year to be a baseball fan. We'll see what happens. I know, you and I later in this show are going to have our own outlandish trades that we want to see happen. Mm-hmm. And I've got a couple 3-team doozies that I came up with, both of which I think should happen. So excited to get to that. Excited to talk ball in general, and man, I'm chomping at the bit for Thursday.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. Listen, Thursday is usually the high activity day. The days leading up to it, you're just kind of on the edge of your seat, waiting for deals to go down. Tristan Reyes in the comment section, he's excited for the deadline chat, but he also says killer hat, Dalton, for the Twins City Connect hats. John Does Math says that hat will not be flipped, folks. We're back on this. We are back on the over-under of how many hat flips we'll see from Dalton today. So like I said, man, we have plenty of stuff to go over today. Like I said, we've got outlandish deals that we'll be covering a little bit later that we've kind of come up with and mustered up. Dalton, we've got grades to give out as far as trades that have happened already, maybe some that we still want to see happen. We're going to talk a little bit about the Tigers today too. The Tigers are a team that was dominating the American League, and since the All-Star break, I shouldn't even say since the All-Star break, since before the All-Star break, they really just have not been playing the same level of baseball. They're 2-8 in their last 10. It's really been not so great for the former American League leaders. So we'll discuss them, where we kind of see them in the American League now. So we'll discuss that as well. But Dalton, as we do every show, we cater to our own fan bases. And the Dodgers have not been super active so far in trade deadline season, but you are the defending champs. So you get to go first. Dodgers, Yankees. Go ahead with the Dodgers, my friend.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure the Dodgers will be active in some capacity. I don't know if they're going to make like the defining move of the deadline by any means. In fact, I doubt that they do. But I do think they're going to be active. As far as where the team's at right now, look, 61-45, there's no way around it. They are not meeting the expectations that were set out for them. A lot of that has to do with injuries, obviously. But look, it's also been a matter of really sloppy play, which I know I talked a lot about last week. That series in Boston, it's a lot of just leaving runners on base, not taking advantage of situations you've set up for yourself. Before that, they're walking everybody in games against the Twins. And, they came out of last week 3-3. It's fine. If you're going to play poorly and tread water, I guess it is what it is. But to be 16 games over as we approach August is just not to expectation of where this team should be. So they're getting healthier. Blake Trinan is finally back. Blake Snell will be back soon. Tyler Glasnow looks great back in the rotation. Shohei Ohtani slowly building up and hitting 1 million homers, so that's fun. I think right now the arrow is pointing upward for them in general. I think they're getting healthier, starting to play better baseball, but the margin for error is just not there anymore. Like, you got a 4-game lead on San Diego. San Diego is going to go nuts at the deadline. So, look, do I feel confident that they'll win the division? Not overwhelmingly, but yes. And we'll see what happens from there.
So it's interesting because so John Does Math in the comment section, by the way, Bicoastal Baseball doing what the Dodgers can't, exceeding expectations. We appreciate that. Dalton might not appreciate that, but I certainly do. As far as the host of this program,
I don't know about the part about our show, but the Dodgers part's accurate.
But it's true too. The Dodgers certainly have have underwhelmed in in some areas, but I also think, like you said, a lot of it is in part due to injury. I think a massive part of it is how underwhelming Mookie Betts has been this season as well. Like, I think that is really a big factor in this. He's a top 5 player in the sport, and he's we kind of joked about it last week. He's playing like Anthony Volpe, and that's just not something that can happen. So yeah, there's a lot. I think, as time goes on, as the weather, I think, gets cooler later in the year, I think things will obviously pick up. Obviously, listen, so many teams. So the Dodgers, the Yankees, the Tigers, like we're going to talk about later. This is what this portion of the year does to these teams. It certainly feels like, where you get these sporadic hot streaks from teams like the Mets and the Blue Jays and the Marlins were the best team in baseball for 2 weeks. Like, it's just, this stuff happens. You know what I mean? So I certainly don't think it's panic mode, but it is certainly concerning, I think, from like a Dodger fan perspective, where like you went into the season thinking, okay, we're going to win like 120 games, and you might not win 100. Like, that's certainly something that is worrisome, I think, from your part. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and the other thing with the Dodgers too, which I'm very interested to see how they operate at this deadline, because one of the things that doesn't get talked about enough with the Dodgers is our position players as a whole on the major league roster are the oldest set of position players in baseball. And so the Dodgers are not a team that plans to rebuild anytime soon. So you do have to wonder, like, you're going to need to get younger over time, right? You're going to need to find pitchers who can stay healthy, which maybe means prioritizing velocity a little bit less. It'll be really interesting to see what direction they go at this deadline and these next couple off seasons, as the team is inevitably going to have to change a little bit with time.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's move to the Yankees. So it's been tough. It's really been tough for the last number of weeks. And I keep kind of throwing it out there of just like, all right, it's gonna rebound. We'll hang in there. It's been like a month. It's just been really mediocre baseball for about a month. And it seems like the reasons change, right? At one point earlier, Dalton, we talked about it a month ago, where like Aaron Judge didn't hit for a week, and neither did the Yankees. Like, it's just, that was the problem. Like, they could not drive in runs. They just couldn't do it. Now it seems like they can't get anybody out. Their bullpen has been, I saw a stat. I forget if they were the worst in baseball or the second worst in baseball. Either way, their bullpen has been unbelievably dreadful for the last several weeks. They can't get anybody out, right? Devin Williams has been almost a godsend now, right? We talked about him earlier on in the year where he couldn't get anybody out, and now he's the only reliable arm in that pen. Luke Weaver has gone a full 180. He's not performing at all. Jonathan Loaizaga, since the injury, has simply not been the same. I mean, and some of this is due to injury too. Some of our more reliable arms are down. Mark Leiter Jr. is down. Fernando Cruz is down. Like, all of that stuff matters. So you're getting a lot more innings of the Tim Hills and the Ian Hamiltons and all of that. And these are not the guys that you want in high leverage situations. And that's why I think like these next couple of days leading up to the deadline is going to be very, very interesting to see what the Yankees do, because damn well that they're going to hammer the bullpen if they have the opportunity to do so. I don't think they're going to be bargain bin shopping here. They might, pluck something from teams every now and again, but I do think that I think we're going to be lining up to see, I don't know. I think definitely one, but maybe even two relatively significant, because they just need to right this ship so quickly. I'm talking about Ryan Helsley. I'm talking about Yohan Duran. I'm talking about these are guys that I think that the Yankees are going to kind of focus in on just trying to solve that problem. I also like what they've done so far. I mean, again, it's not like trading for Ryan McMahon and trading for Ahmed Rosario are not the sexy, like it's not the sexy move of Eugenio Suarez adding another 40 home runs to the lineup. Like, yeah, like that's not the move that they made, but it's also already in 3 games been an improvement. Like it is night and day different from what we've seen from Yorbit Vivas and Oswald Peraza. It's just not the same game. So it's been really worrisome. I'm not like ruling out them, like I'm not ready to give up or anything like that. Like, let's not, throw that out there.
I hope not.
But like, it's been tough, dude. It really has been. I mean, they have been really below average for, like I said, about a month. And it's worrisome here. And I'm really curious to see how this deadline is going to unfold for them, because I think it's going to be really pivotal for their season.
Yeah. I think, look, just like we talked about with the Dodgers at 61 and 45, even more so Yankees at 57 and 48. I think if you look up and I tell you in April, that's where they're going to be near the end of the July, you're like, what is going on?
Yeah, right.
I mean, and look, some of it is Major League Baseball has an incredible amount of parity right now. Like everybody loves to talk about the differences in payroll between the top and bottom of the sport. The reality is the vast majority of baseball exists within about a 20-game spectrum right now. Like obviously excluding John's Rockies, but for the most part, baseball exists within about a 20-game spectrum, which speaks to a game that has a lot of parity right now. And look, for the Yankees, it's pretty simple. They're 28th in xFIP from their starters since July 1st. They're 25th in xFIP with their bullpen since July 1st. They're just giving up too many runs.
Yeah.
And so I think, I get it. Like it's not Eugenio Suarez, but I think getting a right-left combo like Rosario and McMahon allows them to like fix what's broken offensively, right? Put a nice big Band-Aid on it without parting with the prospects I think we might see them part with to fix the pitching issue that is currently knocking them further and further back in the division and putting their playoff hopes, frankly, in jeopardy. Like, I mean, I don't think we're quite there yet, but we're on our way there if they don't do something about it. So, I think it makes sense what they've done so far, assuming there's something bigger coming. I've got a trade to share with you once we get later in the show that I think you might like, as speaking of the Yankees making a move for pitching.
Yeah, it's interesting and we'll talk about this in a second, just because we're talking about deadline moves that have already been made. And it's interesting because all the reports right now for the Yankees are, despite the fact that they've added Ryan McMahon and Ahmed Rosario, they're still looking at position players. Like they have not completely eliminated that. Like they've not closed the door on that. So that's interesting to hear that they are still in that room. Let's check the comment section real quick. Again, John does math, very, very engaged with the program as he always is. Texas Rangers with a 6-game win streak. Rockies equal elite. Worst run differential in baseball is the Rockies at -268. Second worst is Oakland at -121.
That's an insane number.
That's an insane stat. That's crazy.
To be -268 through, let's call it 110 games is insane. I mean, that's unspeakably bad. You're losing by 2 or 3 runs every night on average.
Yeah. John does math, by the way, saying don't give up, Mike. I appreciate that, John. I really do. I'm not going to give up yet, but there will be a point in this season where I might get frustrated enough to give up. So before we get into anything, let's just give you a quick score update. Yankees and Rays right now tied at 2. They're in the top of the 4th. That's at Yankee Stadium. The Orioles with a 6-4 lead over the Blue Jays in Baltimore. That's in the top of the 5th. Tigers, they've been struggling, but right now they're up 5-0 on the Diamondbacks. They're in Detroit. That's in the top of the 7th inning. Dodgers and Reds in Cincinnati, they're knotted up at 1. That's in the top of the 5th. Red Sox, Twins still scoreless in Minnesota in the top of the 3rd. Phillies and White Sox still scoreless in the top of the 3rd. That's in the south side of Chicago. Cubs, Brewers. Cubs right now up 3-0 in Milwaukee. They're headed to the bottom of the 2nd. A lot of these games still so early on. It's only 8 o'clock here in the East Coast. So still early on in these games, but Royals with a 2-0 lead over the Braves in the bottom of the second. That's in Kansas City. Cardinals and Marlins are scoreless in St. Louis. They head into the third. And the Nationals and Astros are just getting started. They're scoreless in the top of the first. Rockies Guardians delayed in Cleveland tonight, but then later on, the Rangers and Angels in Anaheim. It is Jacob deGrom and Kochanowicz on the bump for that game.
I love your pronunciation of Kochanowicz. Kochanowicz.
Kochanowicz. What am I supposed to do? I don't watch every Angel game. Sue me. The Mets and Padres in San Diego. Frankie Montas and Dylan Cease. Dylan Cease maybe making his final start as a San Diego Padre tonight in San Diego. We'll see about that. Again, Mets, Padres later tonight in San Diego. Pirates and Giants. It is Mitch Keller and Carson Whisenhunt on the bump in San Francisco for that one. And then it's the Mariners and the A's in Sacramento. It is Luis Castillo and JP Sears on the bump for that one. Okay, so let's talk about some of these moves. We'll dip into the comment section also. Can the Dodgers win for once? Christopher, thank you for that. Rockies versus Dodgers. Let someone win. But all right, so we have plenty of stuff to go over today. So we've seen a lot of moves so far, Dalton. Let's kind of run through some of these and see where we how we can kind of grade some of the moves that have happened already. So you called this one. We'll start with this because you called it, right? Josh Naylor to the Mariners. Solid deal for them. It gives them it fixes their hole at first base. What do we make of that move? Just again, we're already a few games into it, but face value, what do you think of that move so far?
Yeah, I mean, I just really will reiterate a lot of the things I said last week. It just makes sense. I mean, the Mariners are a team that, yes, they've been better offensively than we expected, but they still are not a team that necessarily intimidates you with their offense. And Josh Naylor was, I don't know if he was the best bat on the market, but might have been the best bat on the market. And so that's quite a get for them. So, I mean, there's not a lot to say. Like, I think this is one of those trades that if I were grading it, I'm giving it an A. I think it's a team addressing one of their biggest needs. And if we know anything about Trader Jerry DePoto, he's not done.
Yeah, no, I certainly don't think that they're done. I think they're going to keep addressing that roster. I certainly think that this is in the A category for me, just as far as, almost just positional need alone. But a guy that's going to be hovering around an 800 OPS pretty much every year. And again, it's a rental deal for them, but again, who knows? In free agency, there's a possibility for them to bring him back at some point, possibly. But yeah, I think it's overall a solid move. They really, really needed to add a bat to that lineup.
Yep.
They really do. Like, if they want to be able to compete in the American League consistently, I think that they really needed to improve that offense. And they're better than they were last year. But this is still an offensive team that doesn't necessarily scare me outside of Cal Raleigh. Just because think about it, like, just look up and down the line of their lineup. This is now 2 years in a row where Julio Rodriguez really has not been a superstar. Like, right. I was surprised that he made the All-Star team, to be honest with you. Like, it's been a relatively average performance from one of their star players. So this, I felt like, was a critical move. Like, a definite, like, if you were to ask me what are some of the biggest needs in baseball, I think the Mariners addressing this position and that semblance of pop in their lineup, I think, was a huge need for them.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, I mean, like, rental or not, they're in win now mode. It makes sense.
What else do you think they can do?
So I think Seattle is also going to be very involved in the bullpen market.
Yeah.
And the bullpen market is saturated with a lot of buyers who need and want relievers and a decent number of sellers, although it's dwindling with guys like Clase, being investigated for gambling. But there are a lot of buyers. There are a few sellers. I think there are going to be overpays happening for relievers, which can work out, can also not work out. But I expect the Mariners to be in the Ryan Helsley market. I expect them to be in the Robert Suarez market if the Padres decide to move him. all of those names you can expect the Mariners to be in, the Phillies to be in, the Dodgers to be in, the Yankees to be in.
Yep.
A lot of these teams in that market.
Yeah. Yeah. Speaking of the Yankees, let's move to what they did. Ryan McMahon and Ahmed Rosario headed their way. Ryan McMahon, obviously, in a deal with the Rockies, them giving up a couple of pitching prospects, a couple high A kids, and then Ahmed Rosario essentially for Clayton Beeter. So 2 trades again. This is obviously kind of in tandem solving the same issue, right? They've had a gaping hole at third base. Ryan McMahon is one of the best defensive third basemen in the sport. That's already kind of been on display in the Bronx already. But the numbers this year, obviously, in Colorado, very unmotivated place to play right now. And the numbers have not been eye-popping, right? It's been, a 710-ish OPS, 217 batting average. Like, it's been a pretty subpar offensive year for Ryan McMahon. And Ahmed Rosario is more of a guy that kills lefties and is fairly average to below average against righties. So just sort of a platoon there for third base. And the Yankees, I agree with you, are certainly not done. But what do you think of what they've done so far?
So I'm going to stick with like the grading theme, right? I would, I'm giving the Yankees a B, but I'm also putting in parentheses incomplete. Because I think I like the idea of Ryan McMahon playing against righties, Ahmed Rosario playing against lefties. I think that makes sense. I think that fills a hole in your lineup with a bat that is going to be somewhere between average and very solid night in and night out. So that's a good thing. You did that without giving up any of your big name prospects, although Clayton Beeter, I do think, could be pretty decent. But you did that without giving up any of your big name prospects, leaving you the ability to be flexible and make other deals where needed. So I think it's solid. Do I think it would have been better to go get Eugenio Suarez? Probably. Mm-hmm. But I also, we don't know what the price tag looked like there. We're going to find out eventually, I think. We know what the price tag looked like there, and apparently it was too high for the Yankees. So all things considered, it's a solid deal, but how this deadline ends up getting graded is going to be dependent on what happens next.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. Overall, I think their deadline is going to be judged very much on the end point because they're clearly not done. And like I said, I think that there's legitimate value in having depth in that sort of space because, and keep this in mind too. I mean, one of the things that I think is holding people back from Eugenio Suarez, outside of the fact that he's going to hit 50 home runs this year, is that he's, and this at least held the Yankees back, I think, but he is very poor defensively as a third baseman, right? Mm-hmm. Or at least he has been in recent years. Ryan McMahon is much better in that department. Now, again, I am one to believe that I'll take the bat over the glove most times, but there's a lot of talk about as well the change of scenery portion for Ryan McMahon, right? A once highly touted prospect. He's got a good swing. He's a good athlete. I mean, Ryan McMahon's a good ball player, but was he playing in a spot where it's tough to stay 100% foot on the gas every day? Probably. So there is something for that to be said as well. And just an overall journeyman that Ahmed Rosario has been. I mean, the past couple of years for him have actually been pretty good. So we'll see how that goes as well. Gregory Soto to the Mets is something that they tackled really early. Like they really wanted a lefty reliever in that pen. And obviously coming from the Orioles, almost a 4 ERA, but big time strikeout guy. This was something the Mets desperately wanted to do. What do we think about what the Mets did? And I don't think the Mets are done either. There's obviously been a lot of talk about them even potentially trading Mark Vientos. Like there's real talk around what the Mets could potentially do. But Gregory Soto so far for their deadline, what do you make of that move?
Very solid. I'll say a B plus. Like I think like the numbers aren't eye popping with Soto, and sometimes the control can get a little wonky. He's not like he's not a top of the market reliever,
Right.
but the stuff is elite. And if you have him in rhythm at the right time, he can be a real weapon.
Yeah.
And they acquired him without giving up anybody in their top 10 prospects. Couple young pitchers. One guy throws 101, but he's averaging 5 walks per 9. So, I mean, the Orioles on the flip side are taking on a couple lottery tickets on guys who have good stuff that like could become pitchers down the line. The Orioles desperately need to learn how to develop pitching, but that's another conversation. But for the Mets, yeah, it makes sense. It gives them an option to shorten games a little bit.
Yeah. No, I think it certainly does make sense for them. He's already been in an outing for them and did well. And again, I think like if you're the Orioles and you have an asset like Gregory Soto, that's the return you're going to get. Like for relievers, and Gregory Soto, I wouldn't even consider a real high leverage reliever. He's probably a borderline 7th, 8th inning man at the best, right? So if you get a couple of, 18-year-old kids with some stuff that you can develop, all right. Like I think that's the best you could hope for at that point. I'm really curious to see what the Mets do from a starting pitching perspective. Yeah. Like I really am curious to see if they look to address some of the holes in that rotation, given injuries, just overall lack of depth that they've had over the course of the year, right? Like Kodai Senga going down, Griffin Canning going down. Like they've had a lot of injuries in that rotation. They've been talking apparently to the Marlins about Sandy Alcantara. So we'll see where they go. But what do you think? Like, do you think the Mets are going to try and make a big splash in that department? Or do you think they might try to remain a little bit conservative, sticking to the, like we don't need the big superstar established guy and we can develop our own stars?
I think the Mets have kind of shown us who they are from like a pitching targeting perspective. I could see them going, and I mean, I think Sandy Alcantara is an interesting thought, right? I mean, you're getting him way below what his theoretical value is if you can fix him. I could see somebody like Adrian Hauser of the White Sox being an option for them. They love these like veteran, like, decent but not great type reclamation projects. Like I could see Adrian Hauser. I could see Merrill Kelly. I don't think they're going to be making the biggest splash, but I do think they're going to acquire a starting pitcher. And thinking about the Soto thing, part of why I think it makes so much sense for them with Gregory Soto, you look at the other teams in the National League and specifically the Dodgers and the Phillies, where let's say you're in the playoffs and you got to get through an inning where Shohei Ohtani and Freddie Freeman are due up. Yeah. Or you got to get through an inning where Kyle Schwarber and Bryce Harper and Bryson Stott are due up. Right. Having a lefty with the kind of stuff that he has in the bullpen that you can deploy as needed in those spots for like a 3-hitter window is huge. Because Soto's the kind of guy that if he comes into a game throwing strikes, he's damn hard to hit.
Yeah.
No, I think, it's a really solid move for them.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. I think it's definitely a solid move. This is the one that puzzled me was the Kansas City Royals. So first of all, they extended Seth Lugo and essentially took him off the market, which I was stunned by. And then they go out and trade for a 34-year-old Randall Grichuk. I mean, I just kind of came away from that saying, what's the direction?
Yeah.
Here? So what do we make of what the Royals are doing so far?
I'm going to be honest. I love it. Like
really,
I love it because they're a team that recognizes that their division is not great and that they're going to be like I think we had pretty high hopes, relatively high hopes for the Royals coming into this year, right? Yeah. Like I don't think either one of us would have been shocked if they competed for a postseason spot. They're not doing that yet, but they're also not that far out. And with the way Detroit's been playing, there's a world in which Detroit collapses and the Royals get hot. There's also a world in which they sneak into a wild card. But even more so, I love what it signals about the direction of the franchise. It's their owner telling their fans, hey, look, we're not going to be this team that can just get picked on at the deadline anymore, because now we're a 500 team and we want to take the next step. So I love what it signifies. They have a lot of young talent offensively. It hasn't totally come together for them yet. But when I look at the Royals going into next year, they don't have that much money on the books.
No.
Like, they really don't. And most of that money that they have on the books for next year, they've got, I mean, so like when I look, by the way, Randall Grichuk is signed through next year. But going into next year on the books, they've got Seth Lugo, Cole Reagans comes back and is hopefully healthy, Michael Wacha, Michael Lorenzen. Like, they've got arms. And I mean, Noah Cameron has blossomed into a really nice starting pitcher for them. So I think they're going to have a really solid rotation going in next year. They're still going to have Carlos Estevez. It seems like I wouldn't be surprised if they bring back Erseg. Like, there's a lot there that I think they can work with. And so when you factor that in, plus the fact that I think they're going to be willing to spend on a couple solid bats, I think that they're a team that right now views themselves in baseball's middle class and thinks they have a real chance to ascend next year. And I think they're actively making a bet that the Tigers and them are more in the same place than in two totally different places. And they might be right.
Yeah. Well, they might be. Do you think there's still room for them to sell? Like, do you think that they still could be in a position? Like, obviously, like, Randall Grichuk is not a groundbreaking move. It's a supplemental move that doesn't cost much. Like, it's something that you can, kind of bank on as a move for next year. And I agree with you that they definitely have a rotation to talk about, right? Not even included in what you said is Bubic, right? So they've certainly made a commitment to that portion. But do they have room to sell? Like, do you think that they still could end up saying, okay, like, these are guys that are either not going to be back next year or just simply not in the formula. We're just going to let these guys go and sort of half retool in that sense.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really think so. Honestly, I don't think they're going to sell, because a team that's going to sell is not going out and acquiring players on expiring contracts like this. Like Hunter Harvey. Like, I mean, I'm just looking at the players, right? Like Hunter Harvey, Adam Frazier, Randall Grichuk. Like, they're going out and picking up veterans who are not going to stick around for all that long. And for them to do that and then trade the expiring contracts that they have otherwise doesn't make a ton of sense to me. So I think that they're just doing a light buy, hoping some things break their way, and trying to set themselves up for a nice little splash in free agency and to be a playoff team next year.
Yeah, no, it's certainly interesting. Certainly interesting. I like the fact that they brought back Lugo. I do. He's been sensational for them, and it certainly is a move that just exudes confidence into what they can do next year. And again, maybe even this year, in the sense, because they're only 4 games back of a wild card spot. They are not completely out of it. So if they're buying in and they're not just saying, you know what, let's just kind of start over. I mean, I wouldn't say start over, but you kind of get the gist of where I'm going there. They're not giving up. And I think that that's good on them in that respect. I want to talk about the move that just happened today. And actually it was like an hour before the show started. And it was kind of a rotation of catchers going around. And this is not a huge move, but Danny Jansen getting dealt to the Milwaukee Brewers, and then Nick Fortes in turn getting traded from the Marlins to the Rays to replace Danny Jansen. And the reason I found this so interesting is that the Rays just signed Danny Jansen. Like, they just brought him in this year. Like, so it's interesting to see what they've done. And it's so, like, I don't know. It's so cool to talk. I shouldn't even say cool, but it's just fascinating to talk about for me, because the way the Rays do business is so much different, I think, than everybody else in baseball. It is something really to behold. in that respect. But what do you make of that whole rotation? Obviously, Milwaukee's not in need of a catcher, but Danny Jansen to the Brewers, Nick Fortes to the Rays. What is this whole? What do you make of that whole rotation there?
So I think I'm going to look at it from a couple different ways, right? So from the Rays standpoint, this just is so on brand for them. Like just kind of shuffling pieces around the board, not really buying, not really aggressively selling, although I do think they might sell a bit more as
they've been really bad for the last month or so.
They've been really struggling. But I think it's so Rays. Like, so Danny Jansen, you're looking at an expiring contract, a guy that can hit a little bit. And you say, hey, you know what? Let's go get a position player prospect for him from Milwaukee. Fine. Mm-hmm. And then they turn around and trade for Nick Fortes, who is a decent little catcher and is under team control for another 3 years. And look, the Rays have this aura about them in trades where when I see them shuffle pieces like this, I kind of just assume they're right. Like, I kind of assume that they're the team that knows what's actually going on. And so, you know, I'm guessing they see a lot in Nick Fortes that obviously the Marlins don't, because they didn't give up a ton to get him. Nope. And Fortes is under contract for another 3 years. So I think Tampa is just trying to extend their window of at a minimum mediocrity and knowing that it could turn into contention any year, because that's kind of how they are.
That is 100% how they are. And it's, again, very similar to what they did last year when they traded Zach Eflin to the Orioles after they signed him to the biggest contract in Rays history, and they immediately traded him at the deadline.
Yeah.
It's amazing how they do things. And they do have some impressive talent, which is, again, that leaves me like puzzled that they haven't traded Yandy Diaz yet, but okay. And they picked up, they might, but they also just picked up his option for next year. Like, so I don't know, man. It's just so interesting the way they do things. But I wanted to touch on that one real quick because I feel like we can transition from this next move to maybe what we're going to be talking about in the next segment. The Tigers made a very interesting move today, trading in division with the Twins, acquiring 2 right-handers with Chris Paddock and Randy Dobnak for catcher Enrique Jimenez, just a minor league catcher. But the Tigers picking up 2 more pitchers. Obviously, Jackson Jobe is down for the year. So kind of bolstering that rotation and maybe even throwing in some long relief help in that sense, right? But just a move that they can, you know, get their deadline kind of kicked off with. Again, we can kind of transition this into what our feelings on the Tigers are, but a move here for Paddock and Randy Dobnak going to the Tigers.
Yeah. So one thing I've been talking about a lot, like with friends lately, is I think some of what the Dodgers need at the deadline, and this relates to the Tigers, I think some of what the Dodgers need at the deadline are just warm bodies, like just adults who can come into a game and throw strikes. And that's really all the Tigers are doing here is just going and getting a couple adults that they can put in games to eat innings and throw strikes.
Right.
Like Chris Paddock is not good.
No.
Like he's not. He's also not horrendous. Like he's a serviceable number 4 starter, somebody who just kind of lengthens your rotation and protects you a little bit from injury if you're the Tigers. That's all this really is. For the Twins, I bet they are thrilled to get any kind of prospect for Chris Paddock and Randy Dobnak. So kudos to them.
There you go. So now we move to, let's talk about the Tigers for a second, because they have had quite the slip. I will say they're 61-46 right now, 2-8 since the All-Star break. They haven't been good. There was a point, I forget what it was, but there was a point where they had lost 10 of their last 11. They're really struggling in a lot of ways. And, you know, it kind of leaves people to question how, like almost if we were fooled by them early on in the year, were they really as good as they showed. So let's kind of have that discussion, Dalton, because now, again, they're not ahead of the American League by all that much. And they're not
ahead of the league at all anymore.
Right. They're not ahead of it at all. What I'm saying is they're kind of they're just among the pack now, right? The Blue Jays right now hold the best record in the American League. They're right there with the Astros, with the Yankees, and like they're right around with the Mariners, and they're among that pack of teams now. So what do we feel now? How do we feel about the Tigers, given their recent struggles? Are they still a legit contender? Is this something that's fixable? What do we make of them right now?
I have real concerns. And when you and I spoke about the Tigers preseason, when we were previewing every team, what did we say was the big glaring issue for the Tigers if they weren't going to contend?
I didn't think they were going to be able to hit enough.
Right? We both felt like they weren't going to be able to hit enough.
Right.
Well, since July 1st, they are 29th in baseball, only ahead of Pittsburgh in WRC plus with a team WRC plus of 82, which, by the way, the Pirates since July 1st have a team WRC plus of 54. I cannot begin to explain how pitiful that is. But let's stick with Detroit for now. Batting 212 as a team in the month of July.
Yeah.
They're not hitting for average. They're not hitting for power. They're not putting the ball in play enough. And some of this is when the offensive players that you're relying on are guys that are all having breakout seasons.
Yeah.
There's a chance that pitching starts to figure some of them out and adjustments start to be made.
Yeah.
And that's some of, I think, what's happening here. Because the Tigers, for what it's worth, when you look at their starting pitching in July, their starters in July, let me pull up the number real quick while I've got it. Their starters in July, second best xFIP in baseball. Like, they're still doing their thing in the rotation. It's just the bats have completely fallen asleep. And this is kind of what we were worried about with them. And, when you and I spoke last week about, hey, what are the Tigers going to do at the deadline? And some people think they're going to go after pitching. Some people think they're going to go after bats. It has to be hitters for me.
Yeah.
Like, it just has to be. I mean, they've got to be on the phone with the Orioles about Ryan O'Hearn. They've got to be on the phone with the Twins about some of their guys. I mean, they have to find a way. I mean, look, adding Chris Paddock.
They're a suitor for Suarez now.
Yeah. Look, adding Chris Paddock and Randy Dobnak is fine. It just raises, I guess, your ceiling as a staff a little bit. But that's not where your problem is. Your problem is that you can't hit the damn ball.
Right. Yeah.
So I'm very interested to see what they do the next couple of days, because if they don't adequately address their offensive struggles, I'm not 100% sure they're better than the Royals or better than the Twins, although we'll see how much the Twins trade off.
Right. Well, I certainly think that by the end of the year, I would feel comfortable saying that they'll be better than the Twins by the end of the deadline, right? Just because the Twins are going to give up so much. Right. The Twins, I'm assuming Duran's going to be gone. I'm assuming Griffin Jackson's going to be gone. Willie Castro's probably going to be gone. Like, they're going to give a bunch up. So I think that there's realistic possibility that they could be completely dismantled in that respect. But that's 100% what we said, right? Was like, how much is Gleyber Torres going to tear it up in Detroit? And he's been fairly good. Like, he's been good for them. But we also know what the nature of some of these hitters are, right? We saw what Spencer Torkelson was earlier on in his career, and he sort of readjusted, and his OPS is still over 800, but we're talking about guys like Javi Baez. I mean, we gloated so much, Dalton, around the All-Star game about how good Javi Baez, like how much of a rebound season this was for Javi Baez. His OPS is 722. Like, that's it's fine if you hit 9, like if you hit 7th, like, okay, like that's what it is. Like, that's kind of the nature of what they're of what it is for them. So I agree with you. When we discussed what the Tigers could do at the deadline to improve their team, I stressed heavily that they should go after the bullpen, right? Just fortify your bullpen. because everything else was performing around that point. I just don't see how they can get by with this offense in an American League with, the Yankees that have legit hitters, the Astros that have legit hitters, and teams that are certainly going to address those areas as well. So, yeah, I don't think here's what I'll say about this. I genuinely am not certain if I'm not calling the Tigers a fluke. Like, I don't know that that's too far off. Like, because would you be surprised if this team finished with, I don't know, 85 wins, 86 wins?
I would be surprised, but not shocked. Like, I believe in them as enough that I think they're an 85, 90 win team at a minimum. But, and I don't think that they're going to struggle like this the rest of the way. And I do think that they're going to do something to their lineup.
Yeah.
But it also feels like this is a team where they are one Tarek Skubal injury away from the bottom falling out and like the Royals taking the division. Like,
yeah.
Like there's a world where this really falls apart.
There is a world where this really falls apart. But on the flip side of that, the AL Central is bad. Right? The AL Central is bad. The Guardians right now are in second place. They're 52 and 53. The Tigers, given their struggle, still have an 8-game lead in the division. They could play like this, or maybe not exactly like this, but they could play fairly mediocre baseball the rest of the way and still win the division.
Right.
So, by no means is like the bottom falling out yet, but like it's no longer. I mean, we said the same thing about the Yankees. We said the same thing about the Mets. We said this, like we've talked about this already. It's no longer early in the season.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, it's not like, we could say like, oh, well, it's May, whatever. Like, no, we're approaching August. Like, it's not, we're 2/3 of the way through the season already. Like, we've kind of figured out who everybody is now. So, the Tigers are in an interesting spot where, like, they can still get away with being pretty mediocre. But if they were in a division like the NL West, the AL East or something like that, it's like, okay, DEFCON 5, we got to fix this shit right now. So I don't know. We'll see where they go. I do think they're going to try and move mountains to get this offense fixed. They don't want to throw away a season where they started this hot.
I mean, look at how engaged the fan base is there. You can't do it. Like here's the thing. If you go and invest in the team at the deadline and it still falls apart, fine. But at this point, they owe it to their fans. They got to, I mean, if I'm a Tigers fan, I'm like, Eugenio Suarez or bust. They got to make that happen.
They do. They need that pop in their lineup. And we said that earlier on in the season as well, is this team lacks legit power.
I mean, Mike, think about it this way. Javier Baez and Zach McKinstry were all-stars.
Yeah.
Like, what does that say about the first half of their season? That's great for those guys. Like, they earned that. Don't get me wrong. But also, like, do you really think Zach McKinstry's an all-star?
No,
I don't know.
Of course.
I don't know.
I don't know. I definitely don't think that he is. Like, well, I mean, again, he definitely earned it in that respect, but he's not a perennial all-star.
Right.
Of course not. So Paul Schwartzoff, by the way, in the comments, Tigers blew maybe history repeating itself in some sort of aspect. Tigers blew a 10+ game lead in the end of August to the Twins in 2009.
I remember that run by those Twins specifically. The Metrodome was going nuts. I remember watching those games on TV and being like, man, that looks like the place to be in baseball right now, that September.
Yeah. Okay. So let's transition to
Mike, we got breaking news. Not
boy.
trade news, but news that's very relevant.
Okay.
Diamondback slugger Eugenio Suarez hit in the hand with a 96-mile-an-hour fastball and is leaving the game.
Oh, God. Isn't it fun? I feel like that kind of happens every year, right?
Yeah.
Right before somebody gets traded or about when somebody's about to get traded. Something like that happens. That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy. If he gets hurt, and then, I mean, the Diamondbacks have said, and this might have just been all a leverage play from them, obviously, but they've said, listen, we don't have to trade Eugenio Suarez. Like, we can just, if we don't get what we want, like, we'll just, we'll keep him and we'll take our chances with re-signing him. Like, it's not like we have to let him go because he's a free agent next year.
Yeah.
But I'm sure if they could cash in, they would take it. You know what I mean?
I mean, I'll say this. I think like the Diamondbacks and a lot of other teams are going to be waiting for these MRI results.
Oh, yeah. Wait for these
hands.
x-rays to come back.
Yeah.
And just, yeah, right. 100%. 100%. Oh, that's such a big blow. If he's hurt, that's a bad thing. Because again, 96 mile an hour to the hand, that's broken hand, you're out for a couple months. Like, it's not something.
And that can break some little bones in there too.
Mm-hmm.
That can be a problem.
And then when you come back and your wrist just doesn't snap the same and everything, that could be a problem. That could be a real problem. Okay. So now we've moved to the fun part, right? So Dalton, you've whipped up some crazy potential blockbuster deals. Yours are way more in depth than mine, by the way. Because I didn't actually go through like the return process and everything like that. But you have several blockbuster trades that you'd like to see happen.
Yeah.
And these aren't mini deals.
No,
these are big deals.
Yeah. So I when I was texting Mike in our show prep, I was like, for tonight's show, let's each come up with a major trade that we think could happen or that we'd like to see happen. And I came up with one of each. I came up with one that I think has a real chance of happening. And I came up with one that involves both of our teams that I think would be fun to see happen. Mm-hmm. So I'll start with the one that doesn't involve the Dodgers and Yankees and get your thoughts on that.
Yeah.
We'll go to the other one. So 3-team deal between the Padres, Phillies, and Red Sox. And I want to hear who you think says no to this and who you think benefits most from this, because I'm curious if our ideas are the same.
Okay.
Okay. In this trade, the Phillies receive right-handed pitcher Dylan Cease from San Diego. Mm-hmm. Expiring contract. The numbers look a lot better when you look at his advanced stats than they do in his actual. Padres receive Jarren Duran and Vaughn Grissom from the Boston Red Sox.
Okay.
The Red Sox receive closer Robert Suarez on an expiring contract in San Diego. Mm-hmm. Phillies number 3 prospect Justin Crawford. San Diego number 5 prospect Cash Mayfield.
Yeah. So the thing that jumps out to me first is I'm surprised that Cease goes to Philly, because are the Phillies going to be looking for starting pitching?
I have heard their name attached to Dylan Cease, and I think almost every contender is looking for starting pitching.
Well,
I considered, though, if it made more sense to flip Cease and Suarez, I could see the trade moving that way as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that there's I like the fact that these are 3-teamers, by the way, because that just that's just, if you think Dalton doesn't ever prepare for this show, then you're wrong, because he very much does. Yeah, so I think Dylan Cease. I almost wonder if the Red Sox also are not getting enough back for Jarren Duran. Like, are they not cashing in enough? Because if Robert Suarez is a rental reliever, and then you're getting, some decent prospects, but not superstar prospects, is that enough of a return for somebody like Jarren Duran?
So it's funny you say that, because when I was reading the trade back to myself, I felt like the Red Sox got the best of the deal.
Okay, that's interesting.
Giving up just giving up Jarren Duran, who, don't get me wrong, is a great player.
Yeah, right.
I mean, they're giving up Von Grissom as well, but I think they've mostly given up on him.
Yeah,
right.
Right.
And so but they're getting Robert Suarez, who's an elite closer. Yes, it's an expiring contract, but they can try to sign a deal with him. And then they're getting top 5 prospects from each of Boston and each of Philly and San Diego. I get it; those aren't the elite farm systems in baseball, but
are they top 100 guys, or are they like
let me pull up the top 100
highly ranked in the system? Because I find individual system rankings to be a little bit harder to gauge, just because you know what I mean. So I'm curious to see if both of those prospects are actually top tier prospects, or if they're just among the best of an average group.
Yeah. So Justin Crawford is legit. I mean, he's a top 50 prospect in baseball.
Okay. All right. Well, that makes it better then.
Yeah. I mean, he ranks above guys like Harleen Susana, Christian Moore. He's right around like Rhett Lauder. Like he's a legit outfield prospect.
That makes it better then. Yeah.
As far as Cash Mayfield, I think he's a bit younger.
Okay.
So, he's definitely the lesser of the two.
Mm-hmm.
But the way I'm looking at it for Boston, you're basically bringing on 2 like legitimate potential pedigree prospects and a closer for this season if you are going to be able to potentially compete this season.
Okay. All right. Well, I mean, listen, I definitely don't hate it. I agree that if Jarren Duran moves at all, it'll be to San Diego.
I think San Diego is the most interesting team if a trade like this were to happen, because from their perspective, you're giving up 2 rental pitchers who you stand probably to lose this offseason given the potential cash restraints there, and you're getting back Jarren Duran, who would fit into that lineup perfectly, and Von Grissom, who the Red Sox seem to have given up on, but he's been decent enough at AAA this year, and I could see the Padres with some of the lineups they've had to roll out there. I could see them saying, maybe we could turn them into something.
Right. Yeah. All right. That's interesting. Okay. What do we have next? You've been hyping up this trade to me all day.
So I mean, look, this might be one where you hear it and you're like, you want to cut off the show because you hate it. Mm-hmm. It could be one that you hear it and you love it. Again, this is just me sitting and spitballing in my living room. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So in this trade, I'll start with what the Yankees receive. Okay. The Yankees receive Dustin May from the Dodgers, Yoan Duran from the Twins.
Okay.
And Dodgers number 8 prospect, River Ryan, right-handed fireballer who was awesome in his major league action last year.
Interesting.
Coming back from an injury.
Interesting. Okay.
So the Yankees are loading up on hard-throwing righties.
I like that. Okay.
The Dodgers in this trade receive Willie Castro from the Twins, Griffin Jacks from the Twins, and Harrison Bader from the Twins. Okay.
So the Dodgers get nothing from the Yankees.
Nothing from the Yankees.
Okay.
And the Twins are just taking in prospects from both sides. So the Twins are taking Dalton Rushing from the Dodgers. They're taking Nick Frasso from the Dodgers, who's like their 28th ranked prospect, major league ready, but not thought of as like a top guy anymore.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha.
From the Yankees, they're getting Spencer Jones, their number 4 prospect, and Bryce Cunningham, their number 5 prospect.
Okay.
So for the Yankees, you're giving up Jones and Cunningham. That's a big prospect haul to give up.
Sure.
But in the deal, you're getting a legitimately elite closer in Yoan Duran.
Yep.
You're getting a guy with elite stuff who at times looks great and is thought of to have a lot of potential. Maybe just needs a change of scenery in Dustin May.
Yep.
And you're getting River Ryan, who is a legit pitching prospect who's already shown what he can do at the big league level. It's just a matter of when he's going to be healthy.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know how you feel about that as a Yankee fan, but this to me felt like something where from all 3 teams' perspective, like the Twins are doing sort of a rebuild here, right? You're giving up Duran, Castro, Jacks, Bader. You're getting rid of all those guys, and you're bringing in a legitimate catcher of the future in Rushing. a legitimate first baseman of the future in Jones, and then a couple pitchers with upside in Cunningham and Frasso. Cunningham's a pitcher, right?
Cunningham's a pitcher, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I think for the Twins, you're like, hey, we're giving up a lot, but we're really revamping our young core.
Mm-hmm.
And for the Dodgers, I think Castro and Bader both fit needs. I think the Dodgers need another outfielder who can play good defense, can hit in the clutch, can do the right things, right? And I think Willie Castro is exactly the kind of utility player they go after. The fit with Griffin Jacks speaks for itself, just a solid late inning reliever.
Right. Yeah. So that's I like it. And it's uncomfortable because like I've had Spencer Jones is one of the guys in the Yankee farm system that Yankee fans are like as like their relationship with Spencer Jones is so uneasy because the guy hits the ball to the moon and his numbers this year in the minors are unrealistic. The guy's got like a 1400 OPS in AAA. Like it's ridiculous how good he's been in the minor leagues. But he strikes out like 40% of the time. Like he strikes out so much.
Yep.
So it's interesting because I think Spencer Jones is a very he's such an interesting guy because he's like his ceiling is a left-handed Aaron Judge and his floor is like worse than Joey Gallo. Like it's that sort of wide spectrum. So it's so fun to talk about him. I almost so Spencer Jones is interesting in that respect. And Bryce Cunningham is another top Yankee pitching prospect. Them getting back, what was it? So they got back Duran, they got back
River Ryan
and River Ryan.
Yeah.
I almost feel like the Yankees didn't give up enough. Like, I almost feel like the Yankees kind of got off easy in that trade. I feel like they, either a rotational big leaguer or another prospect should have been involved in that. Like, it's almost like they got too much for what they gave up.
Yeah, I thought about adding in like Will Warren going the Dodgers way or something.
Mm-hmm, right.
But then that felt kind of silly to have Will Warren and Dustin May both moving. I don't know. I think I'm trying to look at it from every team's perspective. And I think from the Dodgers perspective, you're going, okay, well, we're giving up Dalton Rushing, who is their prized prospect, but also a guy who's blocked by Will Smith. And you're giving up a stud pitching prospect in River Ryan and an okay prospect. If anything, I think the Dodgers are giving up quite a bit here. Yeah. And part of me feels like maybe this deal makes more sense if Joe Ryan is going LA's way. Mm-hmm. But I have my doubts in the Twins trading him. So look, I'm just throwing a bunch of stuff at the wall here. Yeah, I think, right. I don't know. We could toy with this a lot, but that's kind of the point of the exercise.
Yeah. Well, I agree. I think that it's I don't obviously the specifics of the trade, obviously I don't know are all that realistic of happening exactly the way that you point them out. But the pieces being moved, I don't think are all that outrageous.
Right.
It's interesting because I kind of tackled this in a way that's a little bit different than yours because I genuinely don't think mine is ever going to happen. And the way that I formulated it was not all that complete. And kind of in a sense, while you were talking, I was kind of putting together the pieces of how to complete it. And I kind of saved it. I kept it from you just because I wanted to see your reaction of how positively I'm looking in this direction.
Okay.
But how about it involves the Mets?
Okay.
So there's been a lot of talk about the Mets trading Mark Vientos.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So what if the Mets do something along the lines of this? Because I think they'd have to give up they can't give up high A ball players. They need to give up more highly rated or highly touted, close to major league ready guys. Let's go Mark Vientos, Jet Williams, maybe Brandon Sproat and Blade Tidwell. to Cleveland for Jose Ramirez and pair Jose Ramirez and Francisco Lindor again?
So a couple things. Like, it's an interesting thought because we know that the Mets and Cleveland have dealt with each other a few times before, I think. Like,
and you can see the direction in which I tackled this. I don't expect this to happen, but I had fun with making a blockbuster like that.
I think like the prospects that the Mets are giving up there are real, right? You're giving up your number 1, your number 5, and your number 10. And I think that makes sense.
2 pitchers that are major league ready-ish.
Yeah, I just don't think the two things that I don't see happening here. Number one, I don't think Cleveland moves Jose Ramirez. Like, I just don't think they do. But let's say we're assuming that they're going to. I don't think Mark Vientos is like has lived up to it enough.
Sure.
Like, he's been pretty bad this year.
Oh, he's been without
a doubt. So I almost wonder, like, I mean, let me take a look at one thing real quick. I wonder if Vientos is enough to complete that deal, or if maybe they'd have to go Vientos and Beatty. I don't know. But yeah,
I almost feel like, so if they were to do something like Vientos and Beatty, Vientos has obviously shown more at the major league level, but Beatty has never shown it.
Yeah.
Like, it's almost like, I don't know that adding Beatty to that deal makes it any better. Or is it just another body? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
I think that's fair. I mean, the savant numbers on Beatty look better than Vientos this year. Maybe I'm overvaluing that. And I think, getting a lefty and a righty, you're kind of buying 2 lottery tickets. And I think there's a decent chance that one of them can turn into a really solid big leaguer at third. And I think that's the bet you're making if you're Cleveland, along with obviously the highly touted prospects. I also don't think, I mean, look, I know this is all just for fun, right? I don't think this is how Steve Cohen's going to move at the deadline. Like, the Mets have talked a lot about wanting to pattern themselves after the Dodgers.
Yeah.
And this is not a move the Dodgers would make. You know what I mean? In terms of, like, you've slowly built up this farm system of prospects, and now you're going to dump 3 of them for a 30-some-odd-year-old, right? Like, that's it wouldn't. I don't think it stylistically fits the Mets. But if you're thinking about, like, fun and imaginative,
that's what I'm going for.
Think about how good the Mets become this year if they make that deal, and that's a pretty scary thought.
That's what I'm getting at. Is like, I think, like, and I was really kind of hoping for more of a reaction of just like, oh my God, you did something good for the Mets. Like, that's why I kept it for you. That I finally threw a bone to the Mets in the most, like, unrealistic way. But my first thought really that went into that was putting Jose Ramirez next to Francisco Lindor again, like they were in Cleveland. Like, that was the first thought. I'm like, okay, now, like, and then I kind of put the piece together of just like, okay, like, there's real talk about them trading Mark Vientos. Like, okay, like, maybe we can work something with that. So that was really the whole thought process. But the way you tackled this was way different than how I did, because yours, I could actually, like, yours seems like more feasible than mine does. Like, mine is just purely like, if there was going to be a blockbuster to happen, what would, like, make my ears tickle? Like, that's kind of where that kind of went. But man, Yohan Duran, Dustin May, and River Ryan. I mean, that's
think about it this way. You're going, like, that's 3 legit. I mean, that's a elite closer that you have for the rest of this year. Right?
Yeah. Right.
And I think Duran, he's controllable, right?
I kind of think that he is. I'm
pulling it up right now.
Yeah. Free agent 2028.
Yeah. So you get Duran with 2 more years of control. Dustin May, I think, is a free. Yeah, Dustin May is a free agent. So Dustin May is the rental pitcher here, right? But you've got, I think, 5 years of control on River Ryan, who should come back healthy next year. And you've got 2 full years of control after this on Duran. that's a really good starting point. Like,
Oh yeah,
so I think that, like, just from like a pitching perspective, you're not having to dip into the Marcus Stroman market this offseason because of that, so
right,
that's a good place to be.
right. Yeah, that should have been my blockbuster. Finding a way to get Marcus Stroman off the Yankees. That's what I should have done. I really should have done that instead. So anyway, all right. So that does it for that. Let's go to the hot corner, Dalton. What do you have for us as far as picks?
Yeah, I'm going to go with the game tomorrow, and it's kind of a vibes game. I like the Royals minus 125. So pretty short favorite, but I like the Royals minus 125 tomorrow over Atlanta. It's Seth Lugo taking the mound for the Royals. He's going to get a hero's welcome at home after signing that extension. The Royals are clearly some sort of buyer, which I think is going to invigorate the team a little bit.
Yeah, it's cool.
Against Eric Fetty for Atlanta, who has been a total mess this year and is now moving to a team that's even less of a contender. I just think it's kind of a weird mood for Atlanta. There's a chance Marcelo Zuna is not on the roster by then. I don't know, man. I think Atlanta's in a weird spot. I think Kansas City is going to actually have like a pretty hype home crowd for that start for Lugo. So you're getting close to a pick 'em. I think the Royals are the better team right now. So give me Kansas City.
Do you find it more difficult to place bets at this portion of the year?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, you have to. I mean, generally speaking, you want to wait till close to first pitch. You want to make sure you know who's going to be playing.
Well, right. Well, that's exactly kind of what I'm getting at. It's tougher to, because if trades are moving like this, like, do you ever bet on deadline day?
Yeah, I mean, because you kind of know what some teams' rosters are going to be. I mean, I don't bet a ton, right? Like I'll bet less, but yeah. I mean, if there's a spot that makes sense, there's a spot that makes sense.
Okay.
To me, this is just one where like we know what direction these teams are going, right? Like, if anything, the Royals roster is going to get better. Mm-hmm. If anything, Atlanta's roster is going to get worse. And Lugo against Fetty is already a pitching mismatch.
Yeah.
And it's being lined close to a pick 'em. So I'm comfortable making that bet.
So, all right. So that's it for that. Here's a little tidbit for you, by the way, before we go. The Orioles right now are beating up on the Blue Jays. They're up 11-4 right now on on Toronto. Bo Bichette recorded a hit in 9 consecutive at-bats, breaking a Blue Jays franchise record. He has 9 for his last 9.
That's insane.
Just like to throw that out there, just for people that didn't know. How about that? John does math. I beat him to it. I beat him to the punch on that one. All right, so that does it for us. That's Dalton Brown. I'm Mike Guido. This is the Bicoastal Baseball Podcast.
And we'll see you Thursday, Mike. What do you think? We doing a deadline show?
I think at least some sort of reaction from us on Thursday is to be expected. We'll see you then. And again, back to it Monday, 8 p.m. Eastern. Make sure you tune into that exclusively here on the Grid Network. We will see you then.